Hello and welcome to lesson 4 of creating accessible documents here at University Writing. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about how to transition a Word document over to PDF and then make a couple of little edits to then make that PDF document more interactive and more accessible for our users. So at University Writing, we provide all of our materials in both Word and PDF. This is because Word is an easier medium to work with as a creator. And also it kind of hits all the accessibility standards relatively easily, where in PDF, you're going to have a lot more strenuous time to try and get all of those accessibility needs up to where they need to be if you're creating just solely a PDF. As well as a lot of people prefer PDF or maybe don't have access to Word. So this is why we provide both of them. When we're creating the document, we're actually going to start in Word, as you can see here, as we will make all this or the Word document completely accessible and then transition it over to PDF. And so as you can see here, this is the document that we looked at in lesson 3. This is what your assignment was to make this accessible. So now that we're here with the accessible document and the key, we're going to move it over to PDF. How this is done is on the very top tab, you can see I have this Acrobat tab here. If you don't have this tab, that means that you don't have the Adobe Suite installed on your computer. So you're just going to have to go and do that and then come back to this video. So if we click on the tab, we have a lot of different options. And the one that we're going to want to use is the Create PDF. So there's other ways within Word to create a PDF, but we found this one to be the best, both from accessibility and also just an ease standpoint, as it will kind of transition all of the materials more seamlessly over to PDF. And so if you click that, you're going to have to save the document as a PDF and then it'll pull it up for you. I have the document open down bottom just to make things a little bit easier. And so once you get into the PDF, it's going to look a little bit like this. You're going to have a lot of tools on the right side, the document in the middle, your toolbar up top. And so the first thing that we want to do is to make this just a little bit more manageable is go to the tools section right here. When we go here, you can add a bunch of different tools. And then also over here on the right side, it's your chance to exit out any tools that you don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and just get these off and make it a little bit cleaner. And then the ones that we want to focus on is the Prepare Form tool under Forms and Signature, as well as the Accessibility tool. So once we add these two, we can go back to the document. Then we want to open the Prepare Form tool. When we do this, it's going to bring up this screen here, and you just want to hit Start. This is going to try and autofill all of the form fields and other interactive things within your document. And we can see that sometimes it does a well job, but sometimes it will always fill in our headers here at University Writing, or a lot of times it can mess up tables, as we talked about in the last lesson. And so we just want to look at the document here and go in and right click on anything that shouldn't be there and delete those. What these are is it's the document guessing that we want to have a form field here or a fillable text box. And it just sees that because of the different background color. And so once we have those out, we can start going in and inserting our own form fields for where we know that we need things. And so, for example, here under the listing activities, we have a question of taking a few minutes to list the values and strengths that make up who you are. That is a part of the document that we want to be interactive. We want people to be able to write something there. And so within PDF, we want to go to the very top and enter a little text box. And this will allow anyone who's viewing the text box or the document to be able to actually fill in this text box. And so while we do it, we want to name the field. We want to name the field whatever the question actually is. So this is just list the values and strengths. Then we want to hit the All Properties tab. This is going to bring up a lot more settings for the text box. We always want to have the name and the tooltip the same. The name is what's going to be read out for the screen reader, and then the tooltip is what's going to come up if your cursor hovers over the actual box itself. So we just always make those the same just for ease. And we also want to go to Options and hit the multi-line. The multi-line means that you can fill the box, and usually if you fill it without the multi-line being selected, it will just run off the end of the page. The multi-line will make it stop where your box is and then wrap down to the bottom. And then we see this next question is also something that should have a text box on it. And there's also a lot of ways to make these the same size by right clicking. You can set the fields the same size. You can align and center them, things such as that, just to make it look a little bit cleaner for your user. And then double clicking, you can see that we'll go back in, check the multi-line, and then go to general to put in the name and the tooltip. And so in this one, it's listing the values and strengths needed in your professional development. One important note to keep in mind, especially if we do something with tables, this really comes in, is we see here that both of these questions are pretty similar about listing, values of your values and strengths of who you are. And so let's say that both of these had the same name on them. We just happen to put in list the values and strengths for both. If you enter in any words into one text box, it will automatically fill the others that have the same name. Meaning if they both had lists of values and strength, and I start typing in some of my key values, it's going to start filling in the other text box as well, even though we don't want that. And so you always have to have a unique name for it. One easy way to get around this is that if things do need to have the same name, you can just do form field 1, form field 2, or if it's in the table, row 1, row 2, things like that, just to give it a little bit of separation so that PDF can really realize what you're trying to do. And so we will go on and fill in all of these form fields, but just for this video's sake, we won't go in and do that to add all the extra time, but that's something that you want to do all on your own before we move on to the next step. But now that we have a couple of form fields to work with, we want to go to our accessibility tab. So we just close out of the form field and then go to accessibility. And so here in accessibility, there's one main thing that we want to do, and that is setting up the reading order. And so unlike in Word, the reading order in PDF is something that we kind of have to manually play around with to get what we really want. And so when we pull it up here, we also want to hit the show order panel, which just will show things a little bit clearer on the side. And looking at the document, we see that it has things ordered going down the left-hand side here. And what that means is that's just where the screen reader is going to move throughout the document. And so all of these little checks here, this 2, 7, and 9, things like that, those are what we were talking about in lesson 3 of mishint stroke keys. And so all of those are inner keys that were on the Word document that PDF is able to pick up and puts it in its reading order, even though it shouldn't be there. Fortunately, this is very easy to change. We just go over here to the left side, and wherever we see the 2, 7, 9, things that are blank to the right of it, we just right click and then hit delete structured item. Now, it always takes a second for PDF to really register these things and actually take it out of the reading order. But overall, it doesn't take much time to hit out or to take out these inner stroke keys. But this is something that we are able to avoid in Word. And so that's why we always try to mitigate those before we ever upload it to the PDF system. So now that we're done with that, we want to actually put these form fields into the reading order so that our user will know that there's a form field there. And so what we do to do that is when you have the panel open, your cursor will be this little crosshair here. And so you just want to click and drag over the form field and then label it as a form field up here on the right. Most of the time, this will also pick up the stroke key again. So we're just going to have to go in and take those out. But then we see that there's a different little symbol here that represents the form field. And we also see that it puts it in right between 5 and 7, right where we want in our document. So let's go ahead and highlight the other one. And so what this is going to pick up in the reading order is the name form that we filled in. As I said earlier, the tooltip is just when your cursor is hovering about over it. And so the name is what is actually in the reading order itself. And so we see that our document's looking good, everything's in line. But as we notice, the footer is actually not in the reading order itself. And so when we're talking about footers, every single page is going to have a footer, of course. And so we here at University Writing found that it would most likely be best to only have one footer in, as our footer includes important information about copyright, the author, things such as that. And so we include the last footer on the page to be actually in the reading order. So we want to just highlight the last footer. And then we label it as a text and paragraph. And so most of the time, this is going to put it at the top of the page. And so anytime that anything's out of order, you can just go over here to the left-hand side, left click, and then drag it to where you want it to be. So we want it to be down here at the bottom. And so we'll see it'll be reordered down there. And so now everything's looking nice in our document. We can go ahead and close out of this. There's also an accessibility check that you can run in PDF, but most of the time this will label things that we can't even really help or really fix. So a lot of times we don't even run that accessibility check. We mostly want to make sure that the reading order is where it needs to be. All of the form fields are in the document. And then one last thing that we always try to do is just make sure that the title is labeled appropriately in our document. And so to do that, we can just go to File, and down here to Properties. And so then that'll bring up the actual data that we see. We saw this in the Word as the metadata. And so we just would want to change the title to fit the file name or whatever we're going for. So in this case, it's sample Word doc key. As well as the author to be, maybe if this isn't actually correct, you'll change the author and add any keywords, which are the same as the tags that we have in our Word documents, to make things a little bit easier to find once it's in a bigger database. And so really that's all we need to do for PDF. It's a much easier system to go through, not as many steps or anything like that, but the PDF system itself can be a little bit tricky from time to time. A lot of times it'll mess up your document or reorder things. And so it's just key to be patient with it. And luckily, since we have that good foundation with the Word document, it doesn't take too much time to lose, or if you lose any progress, you can just re-download the Word document and be right where you started. So go ahead and download the Word document that's in lesson 4, go through these steps in the PDF, and then submit it to us, and we'll get back to you with any feedback that we think you may have missed or how you did overall.